You know, we often have clients call in with questions. It's what we do. We answer questions. And so we want to take an opportunity to talk with you a little bit about some of the frequent questions we get regarding injuries that happen at the workplace, what the law refers to as workers' compensation or worker-related injuries, work comp injuries. So I have with us today Nick Wagner. Nick is one of our attorneys in the office that handles all of our litigation. He runs the litigation department here at the firm. Very well experienced in knowledge, and I asked him to come in and chat with us a little bit about a couple of different topics. And Nick, you know, a lot of times we get calls from people who are hurt at work, and sometimes the first question is, well, they just really have no idea how to navigate this. How long do I have? How do I file this claim? That kind of thing. So am I entitled to workers' comp benefits, and what are the requirements? So share with us a little bit about how you respond to that. How much time do I have? What's the process?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times, you know, these calls that we get are people who have been hurt, seriously injured on the job, whether it be a construction site, it could be anywhere, at any place of employment. But the problem is they're not familiar with these laws that are set up to protect them. And so that sort of answers one of those questions is, you know, am I entitled to benefits, or am I entitled to make a claim? And you are. Absolutely, 100%. There's laws in place under the Workers' Compensation Act that protect people who have been hurt. And that goes everywhere from being able to make a claim to the value of your case. The legislature has made it very clear that this area of the law is meant to protect those. The issue becomes whether or not the employer or the employer's insurance company is playing by those rules and is adequately protecting you for your injuries. You know, in workers' compensation, it's a little bit different than, like, say, a car wreck or a slip and fall, because we don't really talk about the phrase pain and suffering in workers' compensation. We talk about what's called indemnity.
In fact, I don't think there is pain and suffering in workers' comp, is there?
There's not. There's what I call a species of it, which is what we oftentimes, what we do refer to as indemnity. And that's on top of the medical bills and the statutory value that the law says you're entitled to. So I always encourage people, especially when they say, you know, well, how soon should I file? Immediately, get on it immediately. Don't waste any time. Talk to a lawyer who can help you out. It's something that we do every day, and we like to streamline the process for our clients.
Yeah, so sometimes they'll call in and say, I was hurt at work, and I've started my claim, and the people I'm talking to at the workers' compensation insurance company is telling me I have to go see this doctor. I don't know this doctor, and I want to go see my family doctor. Well, what are their obligations and duties? What does the client have to do in that scenario?
Well, your health is your number one priority. Always should be. Your family's health, your health. You know, when it comes to a workers' compensation claim, we have these insurance companies who have these contracts with these other medical providers, and it gets complicated because you may be thinking, well, who are they to dictate where I go to receive treatment? There is a certain level of truth to the statement that they can dictate where you go if it's in their network. We're familiar with in-network and out-of-network treatment that we get on a daily basis outside of the workers' compensation arena. But in that arena, the question becomes, are these one of the providers that are going to be approved by the workers' comp carrier? And if they are, chances are they'll pay for that treatment. If they're not, you need to be prepared for them not to cover it. But if you go where you're most comfortable going, and if there's an issue with that in terms of getting treatment, that's when it becomes super important to get a lawyer involved so that, you know, they can discuss the necessity of the treatment that's not covered by workers' compensation to get it covered. Because a lot of times they won't cover it unless you've got a valid reason why it should be.
I know you typically tell them, you know, go ahead and go to the doctor that they're sending you to and get your treatment. And if there becomes an issue with that during that treatment process, maybe we need to get them involved with another doctor, and they should be talking to us in that process. Right. Yeah. But it's the best place, that almost forced to start with the workers' comp doc under the Workers' Comp Act and comply. Because what you don't want is them arguing down the road that you didn't comply and do what you were supposed to do with their doctors. You know, we have had some situations where we felt strongly that the workers' compensation doctor may have undertreated or are released early and there's still ongoing issues. And in that scenario, we give guidance to our clients about getting into another doctor for another opinion.
Yep.
And that's perfectly allowed under the statute in that scenario.
Yep.
But they're always best to follow their employers or the insurance, workers' comp insurance guidance to that doctor and start that process. And a lot of times it works out just fine.
Yep.
But those times when it doesn't, usually the patient knows themselves the best. They know their body the best. And if they're not getting better, they need to bring that to the attorney's attention so that we can help them with that process.
Yeah, especially if you feel like what you're going through with those providers is even minimizing your injuries or not adequately addressing them.
Right.
Super important.
Which comes back to your point of you really need an attorney to help you navigate that
Right.
because, boy, you can really be hitting your head up against the wall in some of those scenarios. And we hear that a lot from our clients that you just feel like they're not being listened to and taken care of properly. So, the whole process of resolving a workers' comp claim, walk us through that a little bit. I mean, I don't need you to get into the weeds, but generally speaking, that process is how it's controlled by statute and how that works.
Yeah. So based on what your permanency rating or your PPI rating is, that controls what the value of your case is.
Tell us what a PPI means.
So that's the percentage that the physician, and most often the physician who's been appointed by the work comp carrier to treat you, has assigned to your case. It's a permanency rating. It could be a whole body permanency rating. It could be restricted to one limb, like your left arm or your right leg. But what that does is that percentage that's assigned by the doctor, it's sort of like his final conclusion for the work comp carrier to make their determination of value. That percentage and what body part it is and how it's affected you directly indicates what the value of the case is under the statute.
And so when the doctor gives you a permanent partial impairment rating and says a percentage, like as you've described, that is something you take and stick into. It sounds like a formula.
Yeah, no, I mean the percentage equals money under the Act, and so under the Act, we've got these algorithms and things that they've put in place to figure out, as dehumanizing as it sounds, the value of your injury. But that's how it goes. That's how it works in workers' comp. And then you've got that aspect of the case, so the value of the injury. You've got medical bills that hopefully workers' comp is paying. And you've got the indemnity, which, like I said earlier, is sort of like the pain and suffering, a species of pain and suffering in work comp.
I mean, let's be honest. The workers' comp statute is put in place really to protect employers, at least to cap down what their liability exposure is going to be within the insurance paying those claims. It controls that a lot, and so that's what they use the formulas for, and that's why you mentioned earlier the pain and suffering is really not a component of like it would be for an automobile crash, for example. That pain and suffering is really taken out of the picture by statute, and I don't love that. I don't love that it controls what the employee is allowed to recover, but that's what we have to work with.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to comply with. There is compensation that's afforded them. And I suppose one might argue, and I would argue, that it's all the more reason to have a knowledgeable workers' comp attorney involved helping you so that you are being fully compensated under the statute for what you should be receiving and something's not missed, because they have no duty to tell you, oh, by the way, you can collect for this.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, just on sort of piggybacking on what you said, another big thing that I didn't mention initially was if there's going to be the necessity for future treatment. That can become a big point of contention in a work comp case, because it may be the insurance company's position that no, he's not going to need any more treatment. But then we have our own physician. We can go out and consult with an expert and get their opinion on future treatment. And so that helps increase the value of the case too, and rightfully so. If you're going to be experiencing pain after the settlement, why should you not be allowed to continue to recover for it? So.
Yes. Thank you so much for letting us pick your brain today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So if you've been hurt on the job, you have a workers' comp claim, and you have any questions whatsoever, even if you just have some questions, you want to have a phone call and get some answers and still move forward on your own, please give us a call. You can talk with me, talk with Nick, one of our other associate attorneys, walk you through that process and help you along the way. If you want us to get involved, we'll jump right in there, assertively help you work through this and navigate the process of your workers' comp claim. You don't have to go it alone. Give us a call.